What you have here is an overlay of the Great Pyramid on top of Australia. And we have impacts that are genuine impacts by asteroids, where most of the craters on the moon are perfectly round because they were blasted out of the Antarctica when Mars bumped into the Earth. So the asteroids themselves are elongated, and if you could see that one up close, you see that the asteroid come in at this angle and then blasted it out and sprayed out white material from below the Earth, the moon surface, in all directions, in line with the crater itself and the trajectory of the crater. So we have the same thing in New Zealand. Here is the lines of material that's been blasted out as the impact come in and hit here, and another one here. So we'll go back to Australia and we see the same thing. So we have on the right there the crater descending passage. Then we have this blast line here, and that goes into the King's Chamber. You see Australia is the same size as the moon. It's very important. And these are locations that I've been to and did GPS readings, etc., and they tell a story. The problem is, of course, the complexity of it is so intense that the average person would have trouble finding the similarities unless they knew all of the details that I've gone through for many, many years. So now look at New Zealand. Same crater. This one, remember, it was pointing towards the King's Chamber. So there's the centre of the moon, and that is fitting into the South Island. Now the distance from the tip to South Island is 888 miles between. Now every New Zealander knows that, and it's the gematria for Jesus in Greek. The actual descending passage angle when laid over the Nile Delta will give you Bethlehem. That points straight to Bethlehem. So there's the pyramid down here, and the straight line used as a map points to Bethlehem. What we have here is the precession of the equinox, which is this here. It's a wobbles of the Earth over a 26,000 year period, and between my grandfather Marshall and myself, he was 26,000 days old when I was born. Now if you take the descending passage, which is at 30 degrees, so therefore on a sphere in the northern hemisphere it's a little under 30 degrees. It's actually the speed of light number, which we'll get to in a moment. But if you take the Earth radius times 13, it'll give you the line of the descending passage, which is coming up here. It crosses the Earth axis at that number, which is the face angle, or the pi number. So that's in degrees is 51 minutes, 14.3 seconds. 51 degrees it should be, 51 minutes, 14.3 degrees. So 5151143. Now I told you in other videos that that number there is actually the radius or diameter of the we go down one, maybe I've got it closely. Okay, here we go. We are sitting, rotating around in the Milky Way galaxy, and the distance across our orbit is that same number, 5151114.3, so that becomes speed of light, 51511.43, and then you divide that by 2, and that gives you the radius in light years. So the distance between where my first wife was raised and where I was raised is 118.22 kilometres. And that's Psalms 118:22 and Matthew 21:42, which is the rejection of the Lord when he comes to the earth. We have here the Hebrew prophecies. This is the Isaiah 19:19 and 19:20, and what it's saying when you add it up in the Hebrew gematria, it gives you the number 5449, which is the height of this up to the missing capstone, but it's also the average height of the earth mass. So if you were to fill in all the mountains and all the valleys and all the seas, and you get an average height, that's it. Slight correction, all of land mass, fill in the valleys and level off the mountains, you get that height there. The displacement factor is this line here. As you can see, it is a slight gap between there and there, because when they built the pyramid they laid it out in the corner sockets and then shrunk it in by 286.1, reducing the 3623814 from 36254.24. That's a solar year times 100. This points us to Solomon and the espousal. That 286 is lamb in Greek. So the 2861 is espousal, and that number 3623 is espousal. If you take Isaiah 9:6, now the 96th day of the year is April 6th in Australia, the date I was conceived upon, in 1943. So you add every seventh letter up in Hebrew, so you start from there, go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And you do it again, you get 30, 50, 40, 5, 6, 6, 90 and 1, and 300 gives you 888. And the same applies for Isaiah 11:1, which is January the 11th. When we put the moon and the earth together, we get a pyramid shape, equator up to the centre of the moon, that's the pi angle there. And the distance around is 31680 miles. The distance through my house in Greensboro is around the earth is 31680. So it's down here approximately. So the distance around the earth at that level where Greensboro is, the house on Nell Street, is 31680 kilometres. If you look at the map from that same location, Nell Street, to the South Pole, it's 5813 kilometres to the South Pole, and that is the height of the finished pyramid with the capstone in place. But if you measure from this location to a series of locations around the Earth, which all measure the same distance, 10084.5 to the Jesus statue in Rio. So no matter where you measure from, the location of the statue in Rio is all the same distance. So from this particular spot here, which is in Port Moresby, straight down to the house in Nell Street is 3168 kilometres. Now from the house in Greensboro in Victoria, the same house, to Honiora is 3478, which is Nazareth in Greek and Israel in Hebrew. And if you measure from there to Port Vila, another island, all these are the disease areas which I've addressed. The distance is 3168 kilometres. And to Suva, it's 2424 miles, and that's where I took the cure with ash for diabetes, in particular cancer, and several other diseases. Now, from Fiji and Tahiti, 5,000 miles to the South Pole. The 50th layer, it's a 5000 number, is the King's Chamber. There's New Zealand, 888. In Tahiti, You see where all these gigantic statues are carved out of the side of a volcano. Volcano basically is furnace, and we'll go through Tahiti and show you that. These gigantic statues were lifted by angelic forces and taken from their quarry and placed in the ground in these various angles. What that indicates is that the statues are all running towards the sea, which is Sheol in Hebrew, which means hell, because the Lord has suddenly appeared. Now the location of Easter Island, over on here, when you go around the earth at the same, to Giza, at the same angle as the descending passage, this is stretched out a bit so it doesn't actually reflect it precisely, but the angle is the same as the descending passage of the Great Pyramid. Now Giza again, measuring to all these various places around the earth, all divides up into tangents, which gives you the Nazca Plains, Easter Island, Angkor Wat, Mandajo, Daro and Giza. So here we have around the island various altars, and the altars are looking towards the volcano where the two larger statues are emerging, and they are Yahweh and Asherah. These crowns they wear are around 5 tons apiece, so they had to lift them up. The height of these, which is 30 to 40 feet, depending on the statue, and they had coral in their eyes, so the coral indicated they could see, but they were missing and scattered about the island, several hundred metres from these here, and that means they couldn't see anymore. So they represent the priests. Now the angle of, this is the largest statue, it's called El Gigante, and that angle, it's at the same angle as the descending passage of the Great Pyramid. But right beside it is another one. So you see how it's been honed out and cut down. We'll show you in a minute another view. And that is the Asherah, but that was is the chin, and the nose has been blasted off, the breasts are blasted off, the arms have been blasted off with cannon fire by Cook, who went there after he was instructed to do so after his voyage to Australia. So there they are laying side by side. There they are standing up. They're actually at 63 degrees, 63.5 degrees when they stand up, from 90 degrees. That is Isaiah 63, 1 through to 6. Now if you look at them here, you see that this has been all honed out around here, and this is the female Asherah, but it's all been attacked by Cook and blasted. This is still intact. This weighs, there's estimates ranging from 280 tonnes to 400 tonnes, so it's a very large statue. It's 71 feet 10 inches long. There's a close-up of it, and you can see the chin on the female figure next door to it. You probably find there's cannonballs buried down here somewhere, and maybe up the hill where they've ricocheted. The cannonballs are usually retrieved if they can. So there we go, we have the main statue there and a smaller one beside it. There it is again, more evident. That's the chin of the smaller statue. There's the brow. This part has been blasted away. The nose has been blasted off. I want to do away with the idea there's a female accompanying Yahweh. Let us make man in our image, male and female. So that tells you that when God is talking, let us make man in our image. He's talking to the female figure. This is how big these things are. These are just some of the smaller ones. but they are buried in the ground. There's a man's height there. It says 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times 6 feet. That's 35 feet in the ground, so it gives you some idea how high it is. This shows you another. They got it marked at 30 degrees, and it comes through Nazca, Easter Island, up to the Great Pyramid. There's another view. You can see the smaller statue beside there. That's the one they try to get rid of. The statue count is 887, and that means that the female figure has been taken out. So you put it back in, you've got 888, which is Jesus, of course. This is the James Strong's Concordance of the King James Bible, and the King James Bible is a work of Lucifer, but that's okay because the idea is to get them to write something out because it's not in actually what it says, although you can check the Essene writings against the Gospels and see how they've altered the Gospels when in fact the words are numbers. So it's 86.74, which is 3168 days. Moving a decimal point across to there, you got 3168, or you got 3168 days. This is the age Pope Benedict was on January the 11th, 2014, when I was 70 years of age. Anyhow, that's how the numbers all work. That subtract the Greek from the Hebrew and you get 350, which is Jah. So it's Psalm 68:4, sing unto God, sing praises to his name, extol him that rideth upon the heavens by his name Jah, and rejoice before him. So we're not talking about Lucifer here, we're talking about Jah. This is the Sphinx, and what's happened, this is the missing capstone. It's a magnificent piece of granite that was placed on the desert, and then this was all hacked out of the soft limestone beneath it and then recarved into the shape of a sphinx. Now, where it's looking is important. It's looking towards Leo, and that is Leo there, which represents Judah, the royal tribe. There's another look at the location of various wonders around the earth. You see here that the pyramid is actually 8-sided. So when it was stripped, the 8 sides were revealed. So the Jews stripped this about 800 AD, and from then on was selling material, this magnificent alabaster. They took it to Cairo and built a great portion of the buildings in Cairo out of it. So you could go there and measure with a spectrograph the buildings of Cairo, and it'll give you latitudes and longitudes that all are measurable in various ways. Let's go back again, a bit of a jump there. If we look at the pyramid and you go like so, you've got the 4 cardinal points. Now there's the ages of my first wife, my second wife, and my daughter. That's my first daughter. That's Asherah, and that's my third wife. Now, I'll go back to it and just point out, I don't want to get too many details here, but the difference between the age between my children and Michelle's children is 11.626 years between my oldest daughter and my youngest stepdaughter. Then we've got Asherah, difference in age between her and Michelle. Then we've got Scorpio, my first wife, second wife, third wife. Now the first wife, I married her when I was the same number as difference in age between my eldest daughter and my youngest stepdaughter through Michelle, and I was the same number, but in this time weeks when I married my first wife, which was 1162.6 weeks. If you take the radius of the completed structure. It's that there. That forms a circle in line with that one. And then that'll go around and touches down on the Sphinx's head down here. Easter Island again, these are the statues. These are all reassembled, by the way. The idea was to leave it as it was, as archaeologists found it. But no, they've got to go there. They know better. They've got to reassemble it. And all these 5-ton crowns they were wearing, and they was falling over and smashed, and they reassembled them and glued them back together. This was hit with a tsunami, and they were carried inland. So what have we got now? Fukushima. So you can do the date from Fukushima to the Pope when he recognised me, that's a year. And then you've got the difference in time between the discovery of Easter Island, which was 1722 on the date of the resurrection, because of Easter when the Dutch arrived there. And that's April the 5th. Now Easter changes every year depending on the position of the moon. But on this particular occasion, it was the same as the date of the resurrection and the same as my conception as a baby in Australia. Now, you see here the size of these gigantic statues that haven't been taken out of the side of the mountain yet. There's another one there that's ready to be shipped and stood upright. But that's how they did it. They carved them out of the side of the mountain. Now, they did it without tools, which is quite a feat. So, in other words, the angels did it. And there's the date that the Dutch discovered it. You'll notice the full moon was 1944 UTC. That's the date of my birth. So I'll leave it there.